Have you ever sat in the quiet of your own soul, feeling like the world had turned its back on you, only to wonder, is this my breaking or is this my becoming? There are moments in life when the weight of existence feels unbearable, when the night stretches endlessly and you cannot find your way to dawn. In those moments, it may seem as though the darkness has swallowed you whole. You wake up with heaviness in your chest, and even the simple act of breathing feels like work. The hours drag on, but you cannot remember what joy feels like. You wonder if this is what depression is, a suffocating void that traps you, chains you, makes you question your worth. And for many it is, but there is another face to darkness, one that most people never tell you about. Sometimes that same heaviness, that same silence, that same emptiness is not depression pulling you under, but awakening, preparing you to rise. The human soul knows two kinds of night. One is the night of despair, where the stars are hidden and nothing makes sense. The other is the night of becoming, where you are being reshaped, though you cannot yet see the form. On the outside, they look the same. Both will make you withdraw from the world. Both will make you feel fragile, uncertain, and raw. Both will whisper to you in the silence of the midnight hours when no one is there to hear your cries. But the difference is subtle, yet profound. Depression buries you. Awakening plants you. When something is buried, it is meant to stay hidden, forgotten, lost to the world. When something is planted, it is placed in the same earth, under the same soil, in the same dark conditions, but it is destined to grow. This is the paradox of darkness. One version steals your breath, the other gives you roots. One closes the chapter of your story, the other begins a new one. The trouble is, in the moment, you cannot tell the difference because both feel the same. You only see soil pressing down on you, shadows pressing in on you, silence surrounding you. Think of the seed. Before it becomes a tree, before it becomes food, before it becomes shade, it must first surrender to the dark. To the seed, it might feel like death. It has been dropped into the cold ground, stripped of the sun, left to rot. But in that very rotting, life begins. The shell breaks and the first fragile root pushes downward, deeper into what seems like emptiness. Then, slowly, carefully, a shoot reaches upward toward the light it cannot yet see. That is awakening. It looks like despair from the outside, but on the inside, transformation is underway. Yet depression, too, feels like a burial. You are laid down, covered, pressed, but there is no life forming underneath. There is no movement forward, no hidden growth waiting to break through. Depression steals your energy, your hope, your capacity to imagine anything beyond the weight of the present moment. It does not push you towards something greater. It pulls you away from yourself. It convinces you that the darkness is permanent, that you will never again feel the warmth of the sun. It buries you in silence, and unlike the seed, nothing new emerges from that silence. The challenge then is learning to ask yourself, am I buried or am I planted? It is not always clear. Awakening can feel cruel, almost indistinguishable from despair. It will break things you thought would last forever. It will strip away identities you wore like second skin. It will push you into a kind of grief for the life you thought you had. But beneath that, breaking is a direction. Beneath the silence is a pulse. Beneath the stillness is growth. You may not be able to see it yet, but if you listen carefully, you can feel it stirring deep within you. In contrast, depression leaves you hollow. It does not strip illusions to reveal truth. It strips meaning altogether. It does not take away the false to give you the real. It convinces you there is nothing real at all. That is the trick of it. Both depression and awakening carry you into the dark, but one takes away life while the other reshapes it. One leaves you trapped, the other is a passage, a threshold. This is why it is so important not to rush to label your darkness too quickly. Sometimes what you call despair is your soul calling for rebirth. Sometimes what you name as depression is your awakening demanding your attention. That does not mean you should dismiss the reality of mental illness or the need for help. What it means is that not every heaviness is here to destroy you. Some heaviness is here to make you strong enough to rise. Darkness has two faces, and you must learn to recognize which one you are facing. It is not about denying your pain, nor about pretending that everything is fine. It is about leaning in and asking, is this silence killing me, or is it remaking me? Is this emptiness a grave, or is it a womb? For the answer changes how you move through it. If you are buried, you must reach out for help, for hands, for voices to lift you back into light. If you are planted, you must be patient, for the rain will come, the roots will strengthen, and soon you will rise into the sky. Do not despise the dark, even if it feels unbearable now, even if you cannot tell whether you are buried or planted, know this: no night lasts forever. Even the deepest soil cannot contain a seed meant to grow, and even the heaviest despair cannot hold a soul meant to awaken. Darkness has two faces, but only one has the power to define you. There are moments when life itself feels like a locked room. You pace inside your own skin, unable to find the door, unable to remember how it felt to breathe freely. That is the nature of depression. It closes you in. It builds walls around your spirit and convinces you that you are alone, cut off from the world, sealed inside your own despair. Depression does not simply make you sad, it imprisons you. It takes your thoughts and turns them against you, whispering that no one cares, that no one sees, that no one could ever understand. It is not just a mood. It is a closing of the soul, a shutting down of possibility, a refusal of hope. Yet there is another experience, one that feels so similar at first that you can hardly tell them apart. It too withdraws you from the noise of the world. It too isolates you, slows you down, demands your silence. But this closing is not a prison. It is an opening disguised as stillness. Awakening looks like withdrawal, but it is actually expansion. It is the moment when the soul opens its eyes, even if the body still feels heavy. It is the doorway to a life truer than the one you've been living. Where depression closes and shrinks you into nothingness, awakening opens and stretches you into your fullness. The difference is not always obvious. Depression folds your wings and convinces you that you were never meant to fly. Awakening folds those same wings, but only so you can rest, so you can feel the strength returning to your bones before the sky calls you upward again. To the untrained heart, they look the same, but one leaves you smaller, and the other makes you larger than you have ever been. Depression whispers, "You are unworthy, you do not matter, stay hidden." Awakening whispers too, but its voice is different. It says, "This old life no longer fits. This mask you wear cannot continue. It is time to step into something greater." One closes you off from the world as if to erase you. The other closes you off so you can prepare to meet the world anew. Think of a butterfly. Before it takes flight, it retreats into a cocoon. From the outside, it looks lifeless, still, sealed away from the world. If you did not know better, you might think the creature had died, trapped in its small shell. But within that closed space, a miracle is unfolding. The caterpillar dissolves, its body breaking down, reforming into something it could not yet imagine. That is awakening. It closes you in not to suffocate you, but to transform you. Depression, on the other hand, is more like a cage. Nothing new is being formed. It is simply the denial of growth, the denial of freedom. The closing of depression is heavy, suffocating, final. It tells you that this is the end, that there is nothing beyond these walls. But the closing of awakening is temporary, purposeful. It asks you to turn inward, to shed what is false, to strip away what no longer serves. It closes off distractions so that you might hear the truth within you. One closure is death, the other is birth. And yet many of us cannot tell the difference. When life pulls us inward, when relationships end, when old dreams fall apart, when we feel stripped and alone, we assume it is depression. We assume it is the end. But sometimes what is happening is far more profound. Sometimes the soul closes the door to the outside world because it wants you to notice the door that has always been inside. Sometimes silence comes not to punish you, but to prepare you. Sometimes the walls are not meant to confine you, but to shield you while you grow strong enough to break through them. Still, the danger is real. Depression convinces you that the closure is permanent, that no opening will ever come. It convinces you that you will always be trapped, always be unworthy, always be unseen. That is why learning to discern the difference matters. Awakening may feel painful, but beneath the pain is movement. Beneath the silence is life. Beneath the closing is an opening waiting to reveal itself. There are clues if you pay attention. Depression leaves you numb, drained, disconnected from any sense of purpose. Awakening, though it may ache, often comes with a subtle pulse, a quiet longing for more, a sense that something is shifting even if you cannot name it yet. Depression makes you believe nothing matters. Awakening makes you realize the things that once mattered no longer do. Depression steals meaning. Awakening reveals a deeper meaning. Both shut doors, but only one opens new ones. When the soul begins to awaken, it will close off what is false. It will end relationships that cannot carry you forward. It will strip away jobs, titles, and identities that no longer align. It will make you restless, dissatisfied, unable to tolerate the smallness you once lived in. Depression leaves you stuck in place. Awakening pushes you to move, even if the moving feels terrifying. Depression makes you close to the world because you have no strength to meet it. Awakening makes you close to the world because you are being remade to meet it in a new way. The greatest challenge is patience. Awakening does not reveal itself all at once. At first, it feels only like emptiness. At first, it feels only like being closed in, cut off, sealed away. But if you give it time, if you trust the process, you will see that the door has been opening all along. Depression does not open no matter how long you wait. It requires intervention, light from the outside, help that lifts you beyond your own strength. Awakening requires endurance, faith, and the willingness to let go of who you were so you can embrace who you are becoming. So when life feels closed, when the walls rise high and you cannot see beyond them, ask yourself, is this closure stealing life from me? Or is it preparing me to live more fully? Is this a prison or is it a cocoon? For the answer changes everything. Depression closes to erase you. Awakening closes to create you. And though both may break you down, only one will build you back up stronger, freer, more open than you ever imagined. There is a sound that rises from within the human spirit when life becomes too heavy to carry. It is not always heard by others, and sometimes even you cannot find the language for it. But it exists, deep in the chest, deep in the bones, deep in the silence between your breaths. It is the cry of the soul. When the weight of living presses too hard, when the illusions you once clung to fall apart, when your heart is stretched beyond what you thought it could endure, the soul cries out. That cry can take two forms. One belongs to depression, the other belongs to awakening. Both echo with pain, both sound like grief, both rise out of the deepest chambers of your being. Yet if you listen carefully, you will hear the difference. The cry of depression says, I am broken and I cannot go on. It is the cry of finality, the sound of surrender to despair. It is the voice that believes life has lost its meaning, that no step forward could ever bring light again. Depression cries not to be healed, but to be hidden. It wants to retreat into silence so absolute that it hopes even existence itself will forget it. This cry is not a call to rise. It is a call to collapse. It does not demand transformation. It demands an end. It carries the tone of resignation, of hopelessness, of defeat. It is the whisper of a soul that has stopped believing it is worthy of more. The cry of awakening, however, though it may sound like despair, is fundamentally different. Awakening also says, I cannot go on like this. But the emphasis lies not on the impossibility of going on, but on the demand for change. It is a cry that refuses to remain in what is false. It is a cry that declares, something must break, something must shift, something within me must rise. Though it trembles, though it aches, though it may be accompanied by tears that feel endless, it is not a cry of resignation. It is a cry of transformation. It is the sound of a soul reaching for its own rebirth. Both cries often emerge in the night when the distractions are gone, when the laughter of others feels far away, when you are left alone with yourself. Depression cries and its tears are heavy with emptiness. Awakening cries and its tears are heavy with longing. Depression longs for an ending. Awakening longs for a beginning. Depression says, nothing matters. Awakening says, this cannot be all there is. And though both leave you on your knees, one keeps you kneeling while the other prepares you to stand. The challenge is that when you are the one weeping, it can feel impossible to know the difference. Pain is pain, tears are tears, silence is silence. You may wonder, does it matter what name I give this cry when my chest feels torn open all the same? And the answer is yes, it matters profoundly, because one cry can be met with surrender, with silence, with giving up. The other cry must be met with courage, with patience, with trust that what you are experiencing is not the end, but the threshold. Imagine a woman in labor. Her cries echo through the night, and from a distance they sound like suffering. They are suffering. They are pain, raw and relentless. But if you know the truth, you recognize that these cries are not cries of death. They are cries of birth. They are the sounds of something new entering the world. Awakening is much the same. It hurts, yes. It demands, yes. It feels unbearable at times. But within that cry is life being born. Within that cry is a soul tearing through the walls that once confined it. Within that cry is the sound of your becoming. Depression's cry, by contrast, holds no birth within it. It is the sound of exhaustion, of depletion, of emptiness without renewal. It is the cry of a field left barren, not of soil fertile with seeds. It is pain that consumes without producing. It is grief that closes instead of grief that opens. And because of that, the cry of depression can convince you that your life is over, even as the world continues to move around you. It can persuade you that you are forgotten, even as you are still breathing. It can trick you into believing you are invisible, even as your soul still longs to be seen. The key is to listen, not with your ears, but with your heart. Ask yourself, what does my cry want? Does it want release from living, or does it want release from what no longer serves me? Depression's cry says, take me away. Awakening's cry says, take me through. Depression begs for escape. Awakening begs for transformation. Depression collapses into silence. Awakening shouts into the void until the void breaks open. Sometimes the cry of awakening is so intense it feels indistinguishable from despair. You may feel torn apart, emptied, shattered. You may think you are losing everything, and in truth you are. But what you are losing is not your life. It is the lies you told yourself about your life. It is the masks you wore to fit into spaces too small for your spirit. It is the dreams you inherited from others that were never meant to be yours. Awakening takes these away, and the process hurts like tearing flesh from bone. But listen closely, and you will hear the hope hidden within the pain. Depression says, I am nothing. Awakening says, I must become something more. The cry of the soul is sacred. It is not weakness. It is not failure. It is the deepest expression of your humanity, the raw language of your inner world. Whether it comes through depression or awakening, it deserves to be heard. But when it is the cry of awakening, it must not only be heard, it must be honored, for within it lies the seed of your rebirth. Within it lies the map to a life that will fit you more honestly, more fully, more freely. And so, when you feel the tears pressing at the edges of your eyes, when the sob rises from a place you cannot name, when the cry escapes your lips in the silence of the night, pause and listen. Ask yourself not only, why am I crying, but what is this cry asking of me? For if it is the cry of awakening, then it is not your ending, it is your beginning. It is not your collapse, it is your call. There comes a time in every life when the walls you thought would hold forever begin to crack. The picture you carried of who you are, what your life should be, what love is supposed to look like, what success ought to feel like, those pictures begin to blur and fade. At first, it feels like betrayal. It feels as though the universe has turned against you, tearing away the very ground beneath your feet. But what is really happening in those moments is not cruelty. It is the breaking of illusions. And though it feels unbearable, though it feels like loss, it is one of the most powerful signs of awakening. We spend much of our lives building illusions, often without even realizing it. We inherit them from our families, our cultures, our religions, our societies. We are told what happiness should look like, what love should give us, what success should prove. We take these stories and make them our own. We hold on to them tightly, believing they will keep us safe. We wear them like masks, forgetting the face underneath. And for a while, they work. They give us certainty. They give us comfort. They give us a sense of belonging. But illusions cannot last forever. Eventually, life will test them. A relationship ends, and the illusion that someone else could save you shatters. A job disappears, and the illusion that your worth depended on a title crumbles. A dream collapses, and the illusion that your path must look a certain way falls to pieces. And when illusions break, they leave behind pain. Because we were not just attached to the illusion itself, we were attached to who we thought we were inside of it. Depression often begins here. When the illusions break and there is nothing left to cling to, you may feel empty. You may believe that without those illusions, there is nothing left at all. You may feel stripped, naked, exposed, wandering in a world without direction. That is the danger of illusions. They give you a false sense of stability, and when they fall apart, you can mistake the breaking for the end of your life. You can confuse the loss of the mask with the loss of yourself. Awakening, however, also begins here, because beneath every illusion lies a deeper truth. Beneath every mask lies the face you were born with. Beneath every false promise lies a reality strong enough to hold you. The breaking of illusions is painful, but it is also liberating. It frees you from the smallness you once called safety. It strips away the lies you believed about yourself and demands that you finally see who you are without them. The breaking of illusions is not gentle. It does not ask your permission. It does not wait until you are ready. It comes like a storm, sudden and fierce, tearing down walls you thought were permanent. And as it does, it leaves you standing in ruins. You look around and see the pieces of a life that no longer exists. You wonder how you will ever rebuild. But what you do not realize yet is that those ruins are sacred. They are proof that you are being invited into something real. Think of glass. A mirror can shatter, and in the moment it breaks, all you see are fragments. But those fragments reflect truth from angles you had never seen before. They reveal you in ways the perfect mirror never could. Illusions work the same way. While they are intact, they give you a polished image, neat and comforting. But when they break, they reveal dimensions of yourself you never acknowledged. They reveal shadows, but they also reveal light. They reveal weakness, but they also reveal strength. They reveal the wholeness you could not see while you were lost in the reflection of a lie. The breaking of illusions hurts because it forces you to grieve. You grieve the love you thought was forever. You grieve the dream you thought defined you. You grieve the certainty you thought made you safe. And grief, real grief, is heavy. It feels like the air has been stolen from your lungs. It feels like the ground has disappeared beneath your feet. But grief is also evidence of love. It is evidence of hope. It is evidence that you believed in something deeply, even if that something was never truly yours. And once grief does its work, it clears space for a new kind of love, a new kind of hope, a new kind of belief, one rooted not in illusion, but in truth. The soul cries out during this process because it is being stretched. It is being asked to live without the false comforts it once leaned on. It is being asked to trust that it is enough on its own. It is being asked to face the rawness of existence without the veil of fantasy. And that is terrifying. Yet within that terror lies the possibility of true freedom. Because what is freedom if not living without illusions? What is strength if not standing in the fullness of reality and still choosing to rise? Awakening through the breaking of illusions teaches you that you are more than your circumstances, more than your roles, more than the stories you once believed. It strips you down to essence. It asks you to find your worth, not in applause or recognition, not in belonging or validation, but in the quiet certainty that you exist and that your existence matters. Depression says, the illusions are gone and so am I. Awakening says, the illusions are gone and now I can finally begin. Every illusion that falls away takes with it a weight you were never meant to carry. Every mask that cracks reveals a face strong enough to shine on its own. Every false dream that collapses makes room for a truer dream to be born. The breaking is painful, yes, but it is the pain of transformation, not the pain of destruction. It is the ache of wings pushing through where only skin once was. It is the cry of a soul demanding to be free. And so, when the illusions fall, do not curse the storm. Do not believe the lie that you are left with nothing. For what remains when illusions break is not emptiness. What remains is truth. What remains is you. There is a kind of silence that frightens most people. It is not the silence of a quiet room or the pause between conversations. It is the silence that descends upon the soul when the noise of life fades away and you are left with nothing but yourself. In that silence, you begin to feel the weight of your own thoughts, the sharpness of your own wounds, the emptiness of your own longing. Many run from this stillness. They call it loneliness, they call it despair, they call it depression, and sometimes it is, but sometimes it is not an ending at all. Sometimes that stillness is not the absence of energy, it is energy itself. It is not death. It is the pause before birth. It is not punishment, it is preparation. Depression makes the stillness heavy. It drains the body of its will to move, the mind of its will to imagine, the spirit of its will to hope. You lie still not because you are listening, but because you cannot move. You are emptied out, hollowed, paralyzed. The silence feels endless, oppressive, suffocating. There is no pulse beneath it, no life stirring within it, only a dull ache that convinces you this is all you will ever feel. That kind of stillness is closing, not opening. It is a silence that deafens instead of a silence that teaches. Awakening, however, also brings stillness, but of a different kind. Awakening slows you down not to destroy you, but to allow you to hear what you have been running from. It quiets the world so that you can finally listen to the voice within. It pulls you into stillness so you can feel the subtle movements of your soul, the delicate stirrings of new beginnings. To the outside world, it may look the same. You are withdrawn, quiet, inactive, but within you, something is humming. The seed is still underground, yet the roots are moving. The first shoot is pressing upward. The stillness of awakening is alive, vibrating with energy, even when it appears empty. This energy of stillness is one of the most misunderstood forces in human life. We are taught to associate movement with progress, noise with vitality, productivity with worth. To be still, to withdraw, to rest is often seen as failure, laziness, weakness. And yet the earth itself rests. Winter arrives, the fields lie bare, the trees strip themselves of leaves, and all seems dead. But the earth is not dead. It is storing energy, gathering strength, preparing for the explosion of life in spring. The stillness of winter holds the energy of renewal. So too does the stillness of awakening hold the energy of transformation. When life presses you into silence, you have a choice. You can see it as the weight of depression, or you can see it as the womb of awakening. Depression leaves you still because you have no power to rise. Awakening leaves you still because something within you is gathering power, waiting for the right moment to break through. Depression freezes. Awakening incubates. Depression is silence without promise. Awakening is silence with a pulse. The energy of stillness cannot be measured by the eyes. You cannot see it in outward accomplishments or in constant activity. It is felt deep in the marrow of your being. It is subtle, like the faint beating of a heart in the womb. It is fragile, like the first flutter of a bird's wings before flight. But it is real, and it is powerful. If you dare to honor it, if you dare to lean into the stillness instead of fleeing from it, you will discover that the energy it holds is greater than anything constant busyness could ever give you. It is in stillness that truth reveals itself. In the rush of life, the noise of the world drowns out the whispers of the soul. You are pulled in 100 directions, wearing masks, meeting expectations, losing yourself in the applause and approval of others. But when stillness comes, when awakening presses you into silence, all the masks fall, all the distractions fade. You are left face to face with yourself. And though that confrontation can be terrifying, it is also the beginning of freedom. For only in stillness can you see clearly what you have been avoiding. Only in stillness can you feel what is real beneath the surface. Stillness is the teacher of patience. It will not be rushed. It will not move just because you demand it. You may sit in that quiet for days, weeks, even months, wondering if anything is changing, wondering if anything is happening at all. But just like the seed underground, much is happening even when you cannot see it. Roots are strengthening, foundations are forming, resilience is being built. The energy of stillness is not wasted energy. It is stored energy, waiting for its season to be revealed. Depression's stillness says, I cannot move, for I am empty. Awakening stillness says, I will not move yet, for I am being filled. Depression robs. Awakening restores. Depression paralyzes. Awakening prepares. They may look identical to those watching from the outside and even to the one living through it, but the essence is entirely different. Depression is a silence that leads nowhere. Awakening is a silence that leads you home. Many of the greatest transformations in life begin in stillness. Think of the artist who withdraws into solitude, appearing to the world as though nothing is happening, yet in the quiet, visions are forming that will one day move others. Think of the healer who goes into retreat, leaving behind noise and recognition, only to return with wisdom that can lift broken hearts. Think of your own seasons of stillness, times you thought you were losing yourself, only to look back and realize you were being remade. The energy of stillness is not passive. It is active in the deepest sense. It is the gathering of power before release. It is the inhale before the exhale, the pause before the leap, the silence before the song. It is not absence. It is presence in its purest form. It demands that you trust what you cannot yet see, that you believe in what has not yet bloomed, that you surrender to the process without demanding immediate results. So when life brings you into stillness, do not run. Do not mistake it for failure. Do not assume that nothing is happening. Instead, listen, feel, trust. For within that silence is a force greater than you can imagine, a force that will carry you into the next chapter of your becoming. Stillness is not the end. Stillness is the gathering of energy, the quiet hum of awakening, the sacred pause before your soul takes flight. Pain is one of the few experiences every human being understands, and yet it is the one we spend our lives trying to avoid. We push it aside, numb it, bury it, pretend it does not exist. We medicate it with distractions, with busyness, with addictions, with shallow comforts. We call it the enemy, the curse, the proof that life is cruel. But pain is not only punishment. Pain is a teacher. It speaks a language few want to learn, but it speaks with clarity. It demands attention. It refuses to be ignored. And in its harshness, it carries truths that comfort never could. Depression and awakening both introduce you to pain, but they use it differently. Depression brings pain that circles endlessly, pain without direction. It drains the spirit and convinces you that hurt is all there will ever be. You ache, but the ache leads nowhere. It is like a wound that never closes, an injury that festers instead of healing. Pain and depression is weight with no release, suffering without purpose, torment that eats itself alive. It convinces you that life itself is meaningless and that you are powerless to change. Awakening also brings pain, but it is pain with purpose. It arrives to strip you of illusions, to push you out of comfort zones, to show you what you can no longer ignore. Awakening's pain is sharp, sometimes brutal, but it is not endless. It is pain that builds something even as it breaks something else down. It is pain that says, I will not leave until you listen. It is not pain meant to bury you, but pain meant to reshape you. And though it feels unbearable, it is the kind of pain that pushes you toward growth, toward truth, toward freedom. Think of a child learning to walk. Each fall hurts. The knees scrape, the head bumps, the tears come. But the pain is not punishment. It is the process. It is the body learning balance, the muscles learning strength, the spirit learning resilience. Without that pain, the child would never walk. Without falling, there would be no rising. This is the way of awakening. The pain is the evidence that transformation is happening. The ache is the signal that you are being stretched into something larger than you once believed yourself to be. Pain teaches in ways that joy never could. Joy is beautiful, but it rarely makes us question, rarely makes us dig deeper, rarely demands change. Pain, on the other hand, makes us stop. It brings us face to face with what we would rather avoid. It points to wounds we refuse to acknowledge, lies we refuse to confront, patterns we refuse to break. Pain is the soul's alarm system, ringing until you finally pay attention. Depression's pain says there is no way out. Awakening's pain says there must be another way. Depression paralyzes. Awakening mobilizes. Depression convinces you to give up. Awakening demands that you rise. Both hurt, both burn, both leave scars, but one scars you into silence while the other scars you into wisdom. It is important to understand that pain itself is not the enemy. It is the way we interpret it that makes the difference. If you see pain as proof that you are cursed, you will sink beneath it. If you see pain as evidence that something within you is shifting, you will endure it with purpose. The same fire that burns wood to ash also hardens clay into brick. The difference lies in how it is received. Depression lets pain consume you. Awakening lets pain transform you. There is no awakening without pain. To awaken is to be broken open, to have illusions stripped away, to have identities dismantled, to lose what you once thought you could not live without. None of this happens gently. It hurts. It feels unfair. It feels like betrayal. But the truth is that pain is often the only language strong enough to get our attention. Comfort lulls us to sleep, but pain shakes us awake. Comfort lets us remain small, but pain demands that we grow. Comfort whispers, "Stay where you are." Pain shouts, "You cannot stay here anymore." Look at the great movements of history, the great transformations of the human spirit. They did not arise from ease. They arose from struggle, from injustice, from heartbreak, from loss. Collective pain became the soil of collective awakening, and the same is true within a single life. Your greatest growth, your deepest wisdom, your strongest resilience will not be born from the days of comfort. They will be born from the nights when you thought you could not go on, but somehow you did. Pain teaches you empathy. It strips away judgment. When you have suffered, you understand suffering. You see the quiet ache in another's eyes and know it intimately. Pain connects you to humanity in a way that joy alone never could. It humbles you. It softens you. It deepens you. Depression's pain often isolates, but awakening's pain expands you, making your heart wide enough to carry not only your own sorrow, but the sorrow of others. And yet, the most profound lesson pain teaches is this: you are stronger than you believed. Depression convinces you that pain will break you forever. Awakening proves that pain can break you open without breaking you down. You may emerge scarred, but you emerge alive. You may emerge trembling, but you emerge freer. Pain becomes not the proof of your weakness, but the evidence of your resilience. So when pain comes, as it always does, you must decide how to hear it. Will you hear it as the voice of despair telling you there is no way forward? Or will you hear it as the voice of awakening, urging you to let go of what no longer serves and step into what is waiting for you? The cry may sound the same, but the meaning changes everything. For one will end you, and the other will begin you. Pain does not arrive to destroy. It arrives to teach, to shape, to carve you into who you were always meant to be. It is the flame that tempers the steel. It is the storm that clears the path. It is the teacher whose lessons you did not want, but whose wisdom you will one day thank. Depression's pain is a prison. Awakening's pain is a passage. And though the journey hurts, though it may feel unbearable, it is the doorway through which you walk into yourself. Life, at its most profound, is always asking us to choose. Even when we think we are powerless, even when we think circumstances have written the script for us, there remains a door, sometimes hidden, sometimes terrifying, that waits for us to decide whether we will walk through it or stay where we are. Depression and awakening both bring you to such a doorway, but they do not look the same once you stand before them. Depression places you before a locked door and whispers that you have no key, no strength, no future. Awakening places you before an open door and asks whether you have the courage to step through, knowing you cannot return to what you once were. This doorway of choice is not a moment you can avoid. It comes for everyone. It is not a question of if, but when. You will reach a place where the weight of your suffering presses you to the ground, and you will ask yourself, do I remain here, swallowed by despair, or do I rise, trembling but willing, into something I cannot yet see? That is the essence of the choice, between despair that keeps you small and awakening that expands you into the unknown. Depression convinces you there is no choice at all. It tells you that your fate is sealed, that your suffering is eternal, that the walls around you are unbreakable. It blinds you to possibility, to hope, to the idea that another life could exist beyond the one that is suffocating you. Depression thrives on convincing you that choice is gone, that you are trapped, that nothing you do can change anything. It says, why try? Why rise? Why step forward when nothing will be different? Awakening, however, insists there is always a choice. It may not be the choice you want, it may not be easy, but it is there. It says, you can continue to live the way you have, or you can break open into something greater. You can stay asleep, or you can wake up. You can cling to illusions, or you can embrace truth. Awakening points to the doorway and says, the door is open, but you must decide to walk through. What makes the doorway so difficult is that it does not promise clarity on the other side. It does not show you the full picture of where you are going. You stand at the threshold with uncertainty, with fear, with trembling hands. To step through feels like death, because in some ways it is. It is the death of who you thought you were, the death of the life you once clung to, the death of familiar comforts and illusions. But what you do not yet see is that this death is not destruction, it is transformation, and the choice to step through the doorway is the choice to let yourself be remade. So often we want guarantees before we choose. We want assurance that the new life will be easier, brighter, happier. But life does not give such promises. Awakening does not bargain with certainty. It asks for trust. It asks for surrender. It asks for courage. The doorway of choice does not open onto a clearly paved road. It opens onto wilderness, onto mystery, onto the unknown. And that is why so many remain standing before it, paralyzed. They choose not to choose, which in itself is a choice, to remain in the old life, in the old suffering, in the old story. Depression is the choice of paralysis, the choice of despair disguised as inevitability. Awakening is the choice of risk, the choice of courage disguised as surrender. One keeps you locked in the smallness of what has been. The other stretches you into the vastness of what could be. The doorway is the same, but the path you take depends on the choice you claim as your own. The power of this doorway is that it reveals the truth about freedom. Freedom is not the absence of difficulty. Freedom is not the end of struggle. Freedom is the recognition that even in your darkest moments, you have the power to choose. You can choose how to see the pain, how to hear the silence, how to respond to the breaking. You can choose whether to let depression define you or let awakening refine you. You can choose despair or you can choose hope. And though the choice feels impossibly small, it is everything. A single step across that threshold can change the trajectory of your entire life. Choice does not erase fear. To awaken is to walk through the doorway trembling. Your knees may shake, your voice may falter, your heart may pound. But courage is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to move through fear. Depression waits for the day you feel no fear before you rise, and that day never comes. Awakening teaches you that fear is not a wall, but a companion, a sign you are on the edge of transformation. The choice is not whether to feel fear, the choice is whether to let fear decide your future. Think of every great transformation you have witnessed in your own life or in the lives of others. They all began with choice. Someone decided they would not remain where they were. Someone chose to step through the doorway, uncertain but willing. Someone chose to believe that another life was possible even when the evidence was scarce. And that choice, small and fragile as it seemed, shifted everything. The doorway of choice will test you again and again. Life is not a single awakening, but many. You will be asked to choose more than once, each time at a deeper level. You will be asked to leave behind layers of illusion, attachments, identities. Each doorway feels harder than the last, and yet each one leads you closer to yourself. The path of awakening is not about one grand choice, but about a lifetime of choosing truth over comfort, choosing growth over fear, choosing life over despair. In the end, the question is not whether the doorway exists. It always does. The question is whether you will recognize it when you stand before it, whether you will have the courage to step through, whether you will trust that the unknown is not an enemy, but an invitation. Depression convinces you the doorway is locked. Awakening reminds you that the lock was never real. Depression tells you you have no choice. Awakening whispers that choice has always been yours. And in that whisper lies the most powerful truth of all. No matter how dark the night, no matter how heavy the pain, no matter how endless the silence, you still hold the key to your own becoming. So when you feel the weight pressing on your chest, when the silence grows too loud to bear, ask yourself, am I in the grip of despair or am I at the edge of my awakening? For often the same storm that seems to drown you is the very storm that clears your sky. You may not be falling apart. You may be falling into place.